You want to know the difference between an enemy and a friend in geopolitics? An enemy watches their borders. They don't trust you. That makes them careful. But a friend, they make 30-year investments because you said partnership. And that's when you own them. Canada and I, best friends for 150 years, and I've taught them the same lesson 5 different ways. Different industries, different decades. I could just tell you about it, but let me show you instead the actual deals, the actual betrayals, the actual numbers. And after each one, I'll tell you what you're really looking at, what the official story won't tell you. Let's start with Alaska. 1903. Pay attention to who we picked as the impartial referee.
Sure thing, Sam. Alaska, 1903. Gold is discovered in Canada's Yukon Territory. Fortunes are being made overnight. But Canada has a problem. They can't reach their gold directly by boat. The only access to the ocean runs through Alaska's panhandle. And suddenly, a border nobody cared about becomes the most important line on the map. America claims the border. Canada claims it. But nobody has a clear deed. Teddy Roosevelt proposes an impartial arbitration to decide. 6 judges, 3 Americans, 2 Canadians, and 1 British judge as the neutral tiebreaker. Sounds fair. The Canadian government thought Britain was sure to side with them. But behind closed doors, Roosevelt told the British government, "Vote with us or we send troops to run the line ourselves." This wasn't negotiation. It was a threat wrapped in diplomatic language. The British judge, facing the choice between a military crisis with America or upsetting Canada, voted with the United States. The tribunal voted for America 4-2. Canada lost direct ocean access to their gold rush. Roosevelt later admitted the arbitration was a farce, but it gave him the appearance of fairness while delivering exactly what he wanted. The jury was rigged before Canada walked in the room. And Canada? They didn't like it, but what could they do?
Rule number 1, why fight a war when the legal system is more effective? After all, we're a nation of law and order. That's what makes America exceptional. If I just took that land, there'd be consequences, international outcry, maybe even a skirmish. But an impartial tribunal? That's civilized. That's proper. Teddy knew exactly what he was doing. The tribunal was theater. Good theater kept the international community happy, but the outcome, that was decided in a private meeting with Britain before Canada even showed up. Now show them what happens when they're desperate. When they need something so badly, they'll accept any terms. Show them 1954, the Seaway.
Of course, Sam, 1954. Canada desperately needs the St. Lawrence Seaway. Without it, massive cargo ships can't reach the Great Lakes. Canada's steel mills and factories depend on this project. America finally agrees after years of stalling to be 50-50 partners. Canada and the United States will split the costs and split the benefits. But when the bills came in, the 50-50 split looked very different. The financing structure meant Canada paid the majority of construction costs on their own soil. And when the Seaway finally opened in 1959, the shipping traffic told the real story. Most of the cargo was American goods, heading to American markets, using a waterway Canada had just paid to build. And when toll revenues couldn't cover the debt payments on the Seaway, the shortfall fell on Canadian taxpayers. Canada built the highway. America drove on it, sailing through locks funded by the Canadian taxpayers for decades.
If someone's desperate, you don't negotiate, you wait. Desperation is the most profitable emotion in the world. They'll agree to terms they'd never accept otherwise. They'll convince themselves it's fair. And the beautiful thing, they'll thank you for it, because you could have said no. But you didn't. You were a partner. Partners. That's a useful word. But that was just infrastructure. Show them what happens when you get them to sacrifice something permanent. Show them the Columbia River in 1964.
1964. America needs flood control and hydroelectric power from the Columbia River, but the best dam locations are upstream in British Columbia. The Columbia River Treaty is signed promising equal sharing. Canada will build 3 massive dams and get half the power benefits. But to build those dams, Canada will need to flood over 600 square miles of their own land. Entire towns will be submerged and over 2,000 people displaced from land. families had lived on for generations. Farms, forests, communities, gone underwater forever so America could control flooding and generate cheap power. And Canada's equal share. The fine print said they had to sell their power back to the United States at rates America largely controlled. 60 years of flood protection worth billions and cheap electricity for the U.S. Canada got a fraction of market value for the power they made possible. The treaty just expired in 2024. Renegotiations are happening right now. Canada wants fair market value for the next 60 years. America's position? The old deal worked fine. Those Canadian towns are still underwater, but America still wants the discount.
The beautiful thing about a 60-year contract, the people who signed it are dead, the politicians who made the promises, dead, the engineers who built the dams, dead, but the electricity, still flowing south, still cheap. And when they come back to renegotiate, you just say, the old deal was fine. It worked, didn't it, old friend? Those were the one-time deals with Canada, signed and done. This one's my personal favorite. We've been running this play for 40 years. Tell them about softwood lumber.
1982. American lumber companies claim Canadian timber is unfairly subsidized because Canada's forests are publicly owned. Fine, Canada says. Take it to NAFTA. Take it to the WTO. We'll accept the ruling. Here's what happened. 5 times in a row. U.S. imposes tariffs. Canada wins at international tribunals because the tariff is unjustified. The U.S. is ultimately forced to remove the tariffs and refund the duties collected, but keeps 20 to 30% as administrative costs. Then, the U.S. imposes new tariffs under a different legal theory, and they do it again and again. In 2025, the United States has 35% duties on Canadian lumber. The tariffs are still being collected, right now, today. Again and again, international courts rule. America, you're wrong.
Courts are for show. A favorable ruling is helpful, but there's more than one way to win. You can collect tariffs and fees while the lawyers argue. That takes years, and all those years, I profit and protect my industry. We've been on this merry-go-round together. You'd think they'd learn. But they keep coming back to the table because where else can they go? But here's my final masterclass. This is how you turn a neighbor into a dependent. You don't take their industry. You make them build it for you. On your term, around your needs. Then you wait. Walk them through the Auto Pact.
1965. The U.S. proposes the Auto Pact, Integrated North American Auto Production. America promises Canada, build your factories, train your workers, make 30-year investments in assembly plants and parts suppliers. We're in this together. This is a permanent partnership. Canada went all in, restructured their entire industrial base around auto production. Cities structured their futures on this promise. Tens of thousands of workers trained for careers that were supposed to last. For 35 years, it worked. Canadian plants hummed, American demand hummed. The big 3 automakers made money. Then NAFTA was signed in 1994. This made production in Mexico cheaper. Lower wages, fewer regulations, same market access. American automakers started shifting production south. By 2001, the U.S. didn't need the Auto Pact anymore, so they pushed the WTO to rule it unfair to American workers, even though the United States wrote it. Even though they'd profited from the arrangement for 35 years. By the time the ruling came, automobile production was already moving to Mexico, shuttered factories, stranded workers. It was a harsh lesson that American promises expire the moment there's a cheaper alternative.
The trick isn't breaking promises. Anyone can do that. The hard part is timing. How many years will this arrangement benefit America? 10? 20? You don't know. Not exactly. So you build in the exit. You make sure when the math changes, and it always changes, you can walk away looking reasonable. The economics shifted. We have to stay competitive. It's not personal. It's business. 35 years, Canada built their entire industrial identity on our word. And when we moved production to Mexico, they couldn't even be mad, because we didn't break a promise. We just evolved. That's the real genius, not the betrayal, the framing. And Mexico, they're building their economy on our word now, for now.
Wow. All this evidence. Uncle Sam, you just shared 5 examples over 120 years. Same playbook every time. Make the promise. Wait for them to restructure everything around it, extract value for decades, then rewrite the rules when it stops benefiting you. You call Canada your closest ally, your best friend. You're supposed to be the good guy with American ideals. So how can you still call yourself a good neighbor?
A good neighbor? You're asking the wrong question. I'm not here to be a good neighbor. I'm here to be a good American. Everything I showed you tonight, it was for America, for our workers, our industries, our dominance. And you know what's interesting? These lessons, they compound. What I did to Canada taught me what to do to everyone else. Next time we meet, let me show you what happened when countries thought they could escape the dollar. That's when you'll see the full picture. Empire isn't about being loved. It's about being necessary. Sleep tight, neighbor.